today. Lynn, as many of you know, has been on a working party. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name of the working party. Lynn, what was the Yes. Lynn, would you like to just come and give people the information from that report that you've been working on? Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. I acknowledge my colleague Mark Parnell here tonight, and Mark's going to speak after me because he can probably speak to a lot more of this than I will. I just want to say, first of all, as you know my feelings, I think probably most people here know my feelings on the jetty out at Point Lowly. I opposed that from day one. I have to say, initially I was supportive of the desalination plant. I thought that it's the way to go, especially when I thought we were going to get some water from it. Over 12 months ago, I'm chair of the Environment, Resource and Development Committee in Parliament, which is a parliamentary standing committee, which means that governments may change but the committee goes on forever. The faces might change but the committee goes on forever. We actually do reports on issues particularly related to the environment. And Mark Parnell is a member of the same committee with me, so we work pretty closely together, look at each other across the table. We spent this morning looking across each other across the table. Anyway, over 12 months ago, this came up as an issue, desalination, particularly in relation to the Port Stanvac site and also the Whyalla site. I must admit, I pushed the committee a bit and we decided to do a report on it, which is our role. We do reports on different issues. And today, we released it, thank goodness, because we wanted to put this report into the EIS process, so we passed it on to BHP Billiton, but also this report now goes before Parliament. There's a lot in it, and initially we were being very nice and perhaps not getting too political or whatever about it. But the two recommendations that I just wanted you to know about that we decided to, and this was a combination of Mark and myself putting this through, the committee now has agreed to it, that we recommend the government require BHP Billiton to conduct further investigations into alternative sites for a desalination plant because of the high potential risk to the marine environment at Point Lowly. That's sticking our neck out by putting that in, but I'm pleased that we've done that. And it needs to have an assessment of environmental, economic and social factors. The other part of it was that we recommendation 2, that was part of the process of investigating a regional engagement strategy is developed using the IAP2, which is the International Association for Public Participation, with an emphasis on local, regional, company and government collaboration, so that we actually get some say in what's done. So they're the two recommendations that we put in today. There's a lot of other recommendations, and Mark, I'll let you talk to them. But the other thing I want you to know, the main reason I got up is this report, it's now on the web, but I'll produce it in the office. I'll get them working on it tomorrow, get as many copies as we can out tomorrow, because it's really interesting to hear Bronwyn tonight and Joshin, because both of them have appeared before our committee a couple of times. We've had other exports like Toby Bolton from the Marine Science Centre in Port Lincoln, a couple of others that we've had. We've also had BHP Billiton. I'll get all that Hansard out because it was all recorded when they talked to us. So anybody can have any copies of that they want from the office. You can also have a copy of this report, or if you want it, we'll get it all printed out. It's well worth reading. What they've said tonight, a lot of it's in this report, and you might like to read it again afterwards because it's pretty technical. And some of it went over my head, and I'm sure it went over some of your heads. I'm sure it can go over all your heads, but pretty technical. But I think you can go back and have another look. It's a good idea. So you're welcome to have it from my office. Give us a ring or come in and we'll get it to you. I'll hand over to Mark now because I know Mark's come a long way. He's not one of my mob, he's one of the Greens. Oh well, you know. And we have a bit of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Leonard. It's not party political. On our committee that Lynn so ably chairs, we've got Liberal, we've got Labor and we've got Independents. And unanimously this morning we approved this final report, and it has now, I think, 19 recommendations. I just want to say a little bit about the report because it's a process that's run in parallel to the one that we're here talking about tonight, which is the EIS for the BHP project. What we do in Parliament is we call people in who we think we've got something to say on a topic. They give evidence. The Hansard people write down every single word they say. It's all published. And we did hear from Bronwyn and Joachim. We also heard from Associate Professor John Middleton, who is from the South Australian Research and Development Institute. And I noticed, Russell, that that was one of the proposals of council was to try and get Saadi across here. And it's a shame because these are government scientists. And if you have a look at the evidence before the committee, even the government scientists were saying that there were problems with the modelling. In fact, what they said was the model is beautiful, a wonderful model, but it's not backed up by sufficient data so that we can have confidence in the outcomes. Now, that's Joachim's last slide, you know, never, question mark, never. It's all about confidence when it comes to computer models. I'll just say one final thing. Lynn referred to our recommendation number 1, which paraphrased is look for a better location. That's recommendation number 1. And she talked about the consultation we think BHP should go through along with the government. But parliamentary committees have to be pragmatic, and there's other recommendations which assume that the project will go ahead. And one of the things that we were keen to do is to bring BHP Billiton back to some of their original statements, where what they said was, during these dodge tides, because they've heard from Joachim, they know that these dodge tides are a problem. During dodge tides, well, we could just turn the desal plant off. Right now, so it's not our job as the parliamentary committee to tell them how to run their desal plant, whether they turn it off or whatever they do. The bottom line has to be, if you've got these risky periods, a risky weather environment with the wind that Joachim described, or risky dodge tides, there should not be discharge to the marine environment. Now, how BHP Billiton achieves that is up to them. But I said that was the final thing, that was the second final thing. The final thing is to say, just because a parliamentary committee has recommended to the government these things, doesn't mean that the government is bound to accept them. And in fact, regardless of the fact that it was a multi-party report, the government is quite at liberty to ignore it. The reason that we reported quickly today was because we wanted our submission to also be an official submission to the EIS process. And we can't say that the government has ignored this information because we haven't finished that process. We won't know, probably until next year, what the government will do with all this information that we've presented to them. So Joachim, in his presentation, also said, you know, don't just sit back and think that smarter people than you have already thought about it and dealt with it. There's still a lot more to do. So thank you for coming out. Thanks for the chance to talk to you, and thanks, Lynn, for the chance for our committee to have a more detailed look than even you had tonight. And I think we've come up with a good report. Thank you.